Let me move to the third question. Anybody who is involved in innovation, exciting change, is going to have to deal with the prospect of, hopefully, occasional failure. If you don't accept that some of the great ideas are going to fail, then you will be risk averse and you will not have any major ideas. So how we deal with failure and how organizations, governments, and societies deal with failure it can be very important to encouraging this whole innovation process. So let me turn first to Dr. Chung again to speak from a society which is essentially Confucian and has a particular attitude to risk and failure.
Well, I'd like to talk about the issue from the point of view of latecomer country, like Korea back in 1960s and 70s. Investment in innovation is innovation is very likely to fail because risk is an intrinsic element of innovation. Thus, a society that is lenient to failure is more conducive to innovation. But Korea has never been so kind, so hospitable to failure. It has been very harsh to innovation, but still it has been successful in promoting innovation. The context where Korea lied back in the 60s, the fact that it is a latecomer. By being a latecomer, you can minimize trial and error in learning technology by learning from the experiences of first movers. So innovation activities in Korea back in the 60s and 70s were very much focused on imitating and assimilating mature technologies borrowed from foreign countries rather than creating new technologies. In such cases, innovation does not involve so high risk or so high market technological risk or market risk. So in many other cases, failures are not justified in terms of innovation. So we can consider that if they fail in innovative activity, it is not because of the risks or technological risks or market risk involved in innovation, but because of the inappropriateness of technology or mismanagement of the innovation processes. So in the early stage of development in Korea, back in 60s and 70s, penalizing failure did not mean kind of a deterring innovation in Korea. So it is true, it is not deniable that encouraging failure, encouraging innovation and the permissive to innovation is very, very important factor in promoting innovation, but for the latecomer countries, that may not be true.
How we can deal with different attitudes to risk and still, or is it true that the countries and societies and organizations which are genuinely risk averse are also the most innovative? And if that is the case, then how do we deal with that in situations where that risk aversity is different? Mark.
I would like to say two things on this subject. The first is that if we emphasize the term failure, then we're not going to get very far. And what I've seen is that what is getting emphasized more and more is the term iteration. And that is to say, you don't ever get anything perfect to say the first time. Most of this is not an engineering process where you design it all and then it works or it doesn't work. Certainly the work that I've done in games and in many things says you put something out there and you expect to get feedback and improve it in a continual basis, and that will lead you over time to very, very good innovation. The second thing is that we are starting to think of this as portfolios. And so when you have a portfolio, some of the things will succeed and some of the things will not, but you accept that and you decide that we're going to put a lot of different investments out there because we know that only some of them will really succeed.
Yeah, Saleh, perhaps you'd like to add a comment.
In terms of going back to the development sector particularly, I mean, nobody has figured out how to eradicate poverty. If we had, then it wouldn't be here. So that means nobody really knows. So if we don't know and if you are become risk averse, then it doesn't work out. So if you become a process-driven organization, which is just following processes, you're never going to be able to do anything. So that's where I think it's very important, particularly for people who actually fund these initiatives, to be very open to failures. But the important thing, it's also, we have to keep in mind that responsibility is key, that it's poor people's money that's coming in, and you have to be responsible about it. So the important bit is learning. Are you learning from the failure? Are you growing stronger from the failure? And creating knowledge out of that and disseminating that, both internally inside the organization and externally. I think that's very, very critical.
Yes, learning and not making the same mistake twice is the first time you may get away with it, the second time you won't. Professor Gupta.
Yeah, I would say we should have a taxonomy of failures because you cannot consider different kinds of failure with the same policy instrument. So there's a conceptual failure, perpetual motion machine, never going to be built. And there are people who spend their life in chasing that goal. Conceptually, they are wrong, and that failure cannot be helped. But then there are also failures of resources. There's a failure of team. You didn't get the right people to complement your skills and convert that idea into practice. There are failures when you did not persist enough. You gave up too soon. The idea was not taken to its logical conclusion. That's another type of failure. There are failures that you could develop wonderful idea, but you couldn't implement it in the operational sense. So there are different kinds of failures. I'll give you two examples in which our society is trying to address, India is trying to address. 3 years ago, a third-year student from a technical college here in Mumbai came to me to invite for a lecture, and I said, look, I won't come unless you do something. And he said, what should I do? I said, put 5,000 engineering projects together. So he did it in about 15 days. I went there, and he said, what next? So he put 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. At techpedia.in, developed by SRISTI, we have 104,000 projects done by 350,000 students of 500 technical institutions, engineering institutions. What does it show? It shows that lots of good ideas were abundant. So we developed a relay model. We call it Coco in our India. There is a game called as Coco. It's a relay model. That means this idea was a failure in his hand, but somebody else can take it forward in another institution and take it to next step. And then third institution, third step. Maybe 4 or 5 cycles, it might become a product. So we need to develop, as you rightly mentioned, use online platforms, create a relay of ideas so that not necessarily that the ones who conceive the idea first must complete it also. It can complete in a distributed manner. So we harness the power of distributed idea management, knowledge management to cut the ideas through. Second experiment, which we did in this summer of 2011, in Gujarat Technical University and in the partnership with techpedia.in at SRISTI, 50,000 students went for what we call as industrial Shodhyatra. Shodhyatra means learning walk. I've been doing these walks for the last 14 years. I've walked 5,000 kilometers in different parts of the country. These students were supposed to walk in industrial clusters. They walked, identified 16,000 problems. University gave them 3 credit for documenting the problem, 15 credit for trying to solve them in the final year. Now, we all know that not all of them will succeed in solving the problem. In a university system, how do you encourage people to take risk when they don't succeed? So the guidelines were developed that if effort has been made, even if the problem is not solved, we must give credit for that. So 16,000 problems of small enterprises and informal sector will be addressed by 50,000 students under the guidance of 8,000 faculty members in the current year. And this will be online, traceable, tractable. So I think the risk aversion can be overcome when we decide to reward efforts, a genuine efforts, originality of conceptualization, a good plan of business, good plan of execution, even if the execution fails. Idea does not fail ever. Thank you.
Thank you. That example of how do you deal with a project which fails in an academic environment is a good illustration of needing to manage risk and to be able to cope with risk. And actually, risk is a better word to use in this context than failure, I think. Let me take one contribution from the audience that I'm facing here. Anything you'd like to add to the debate on managing risk, dealing with risk? Yes, we've got a person here. I've got 3 people. I may not have time, I'm afraid. We started late.
Hi, my name is Naveed Malik from Pakistan. One element that got left out of the last round was the age factor. Younger people are capable of taking risks. And the example that comes to mind is if you look at all of the successful ventures across the board today, okay, from Microsoft all the way down, they were all started by young people. And the very simple reason probably behind that is young people are immune to even flying bullets. They'll fall down, they'll get up and start walking again. When we get to this level of gray hair, you probably stop taking risks. So innovation and risk at the younger level, if that is encouraged, that is probably has a much higher chance of succeeding or just ignoring the whole problem.
Yes, that's a very interesting example, because is it not the case that you and I could probably tolerate failure much more easily than the young people can, for whom it is a much higher risk?
I would say that we would take fewer risks at our age.
Yes, true enough, true enough. I'll take one more contribution, and
just
then we must
quick
move on.
example, not from Australia, but actually from Iceland. I visited it in 2005. The Ministry for Education had a deliberate policy of do, then think. They said if they didn't take the risks, then their nation would not go ahead educationally. And so it came from the government down, and that was a fantastically liberating little phrase. I've used it many times, do, then think, because a lot of people will react to it. I think it should be the other way around, but it's the way in which the Icelandic government got their online learning off the ground so fast.
Thank you very much. Let me have a final vote from the audience, just about your own organisation, and you're all anonymous here. Nobody knows who any of you are. So do you think you come from a society or from an organisation which is risk averse, and that is inhibiting innovation in your organisation? Those people who would say yes to that question, they come from basically a risk-averse environment which is inhibiting change and innovation. We've got a few hands coming up here, a few hands. And what about those who think the reverse? They come from a really innovative, encouraging, risk-tolerant organisation. About the same number again. Actually, the audience is split in half, almost in half on almost all the questions. We are getting very close to the end. I'm going to give literally 10 seconds to each member of the panel to deliver a single message on innovation and the management of innovation, the encouragement of innovation, which they want to take forward into the field of education, which should be discussed in this summit today. We've got 10 seconds each, round the table, quick.
I would say the important thing is to listen to the young people and to understand that we are in a new world with new kinds of technology, and to not think about the old ways things have been done, but how we can do them differently in the future. And our best clue to that is our young people.
I would add that it's very exciting times for innovators. We are a lot more connected society as a world. So take risks and manage innovations.
2 key messages. Minds on the margin are not marginal minds. Second, creativity counts. Innovations matter, but incentives not just material, but also non-material, not just individual, but also group.
Thank you, and we're going to run over time. I'm sorry, organisers.
Well, in order to help the students deal with the fast-changing knowledge society, I think the education has to help students build absorptive capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And audience, I apologize for being able to not take so many questions from you. We started late and we're shortened. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you to the panelists. An interesting discussion. Thanks a lot.